Hey, how's it going, guys? In today's video, we're going to be talking about reclaiming clay, how to do it, what you're going to need, so stick around. So it's worth talking about when do you take your scrap pieces of clay that you want to reclaim and put them back into the water bucket so that you can start the process of reclaiming. If you notice, this is all super dry. When I break it, it looks like it's ready to go in the kiln, or it is bone dry. What I typically do is throw it right back into the water, and it will slake down a lot faster if it's bone dry. Now, I don't do anything other than this, and that's about it. Once you've thrown it in there, I usually give it about 24 hours before I mess with it, and I make sure that my bucket is completely topped off with water, and it makes life easy. Now, let's say you got a piece that's real hard, and you're like, well, it's not bone dry, what can I do with it? You can still throw it in your bucket, but here's the thing, it will not slake down like that bone dry clay will. That other bone dry stuff, it will like completely break apart and turn into like a sediment, and is a lot easier to work with. This will kind of keep its shape the whole time. Can I focus here? Okay, it'll kind of keep its shape the whole time. But to be honest with you, because I use a Pug Mill, it doesn't really mess me up that bad. So I will take stuff like this, throw a bite back in the bucket. Now notice, if you're hand wedging, that's going to make your job a little bit harder. It's going to be more steps you're going to have to do in the wedging process to get it to a state where it is workable like this. Things to keep in mind. So another one of the tools you're going to need is, I got one of these like concrete buckets or whatever from the hardware store, and I throw clay into this and then just throw water on top of it. I also keep another 5-gallon bucket of water in it so I can wash my hands. It makes life a little bit easier. Next thing you're going to want is a piece of wood. Actually, you could do this with a plaster bat, a concrete slab. I could just pour it out on the concrete here, but I don't want to clean that up. So I just use a board like this, and then you're going to smear the clay on it so that it's maybe let's say 1.5 inches to 3 inches high, and I will show you what that looks like in just a minute. Alrighty, at this point, we've got the clay out on the board or wherever you're going to be drying it out. Things you want to avoid: the water needs to be able to seep through whatever you've put it on. So make sure that you're not using like a board that has like a lacquer or something on it, or a plastic table. These kind of things, they won't work, and it'll make your life a nightmare, because essentially what's going to happen is you want the top of the clay to evaporate out, and you want the bottom of the clay to have the moisture pulled down through it. So that shows you about how much I put on there. Now, if you're doing this in large batches and you have a Pug Mill like I have, I'm doing this so that anybody can follow along. But if I was doing this myself, this would be about 4 inches higher, and I would come in and just kind of loosely rotate it every 30 minutes to an hour. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to check this every 30 minutes to an hour and see where the clay's kind of sitting. I'm going to show you how to wedge this all by hand and get it ready to be worked on the wheel or hand building. And then we'll go through how to clean this guy up, and I will show you how to use it as well towards the end of the video. Okay, so I've gone to lunch, come back, and you'll notice if I take my finger and tap it, I'm not picking up too much clay, but this is still too wet. And you can see where it's like kind of shiny right here. That's definitely too wet. What we're looking for is right here on the side, it is good enough for me to build a form out of without it actually sticking to my finger. And once the clay is like this top half has kind of gotten to where this is, we're gonna go ahead and churn it. If you see like little cracks like this isn't bad. It just means that it is drying, and that is a good thing. It's what we want to see. Right, and once we get back to the part where it's ready to churn, I'll show you guys the next step. So at this point, it's been sitting up for about 2 hours, and you can see I can come in and push on it, and my fingers are damp, but they're not like sticky. So then what I'm gonna come in and do is I'm just gonna drag my finger along like this, and that's gonna give it more surface area to dry. Now the reason I wait this long to do that is because I've had issues with it like resealing if you do it too early. So right now it's got enough consistency in the clay for you to work it just a little bit. Now, I don't worry too much about like if I accidentally throw some clay back in there in like the hole or whatever, but that's gonna help us with time. And then maybe about another 2 hours, we'll be ready to process this clay, which is a good thing. We'll be back in working order shortly. Alrighty, at this point, it's been a few hours. You notice that when I pick up the clay now, it looks somewhat workable, and then it's not on my hands much. If you're lucky, you can get it to peel up from the edges really easily without it being too dried on the edges. Now what we're going to do is we're going to work this all together. Now I'm only going to take a chunk of this, pull it all up, and show you how to work it, but I'm going to get a camera set up so that you guys can see that while I do it. Alright, I'm going to do my best to stay in shot here, and like hopefully the camera doesn't wobble too bad. But really what we're going to do is, you'll notice that some of this clay is still really wet. So it's getting all over my hands. But that's okay, because some of this clay should be pretty close to being able to be worked back into something usable. Now what I would typically do is I would pull all of this off and get it into lumps like this, and start the wedging process on this board. And all I'm doing is doing my best just to mix it all together. Should be serviceable. Now I'm going to show you what I do, which makes life quite a bit easier. The first step that I do for using my Pug Mill is I'll pull all this up like this and kind of get them in like little log shapes. Here's what will make your life super easy when you're reclaiming clay. This is a Pug Mill. This will actually, when I put the lid on this, it will suck the air out of the clay, but I need to service my air compressor, so I'm not going to be using my air compressor today. So what do we do to get it so we can just work with it? So we got a little bit of clay here. I'm gonna take this clay up and out of this. I'm gonna throw it right back in my clay bucket, which my cat is in right now. Get all this kind of picked out, and then we'll take a look at the inside of this. So just so nobody's super worried, right now this is not plugged in. But I do want to get this big chunk of clay pulled off of here, which I don't know if I can do with one hand. There we go. All right. So now that we got this mostly situated, you'll notice that if I stick my finger in here, I can pull up clay that's not yet gone hard, and it's a real mixed bag in there. I don't know if you can see, but I have this end plugged up with a piece of plastic. The reason I use plastic is because I want this stuff that I can't get out after I'm working to still stay, to still stay workable and moist. So now what we're gonna do is we're going to plug it in, which I'll be right back to do that. All right, we got it plugged in. So I got my on and off switch right back here. Once I've done this, you'll see it cuts on. Things that you never want to do. You never want to put your fingers past this point. Now, there's about a 3-inch gap, so if your finger goes in just a little bit, it most likely won't get caught. But here's the thing, with moving equipment, you never want to be wearing jewelry. If you've got long hair, you want to tie it back. Long sleeves, you want to roll them up. Don't be wearing gloves, all that kind of jazz, because let's say something grabs in there and it pulls you down, you're going to lose something, and that is no good. So don't lose anything. Safety first. So what we're going to do is we're going to push the clay in just like this. Okay, I pull back on my trusty dusty handle, and then you can see it's reworking everything right back in here. We're gonna hold it just like that. I usually hold it for about 3 seconds. Grab me more clay when I've got 2 hands. So I have one hand here, one hand grabbing clay, hold it for 3 seconds, open it up. You can see that it's now kind of worked its way a little bit. We're going to chuck us another ball of clay in there. And once again, I'm making sure that my hand doesn't go past any safety points. And you don't, with all equipment, all your tools, some big things that you want to be aware of is let the tool do the job for you. You don't have to crank back on this handle and do anything crazy. Just let the tool do the work and move at the pace of the tool. Obviously, the more strain you put on the tool, odds are it's going to get more work done. But that strain comes with the side effect of you wearing out the motor fast and you breaking your equipment. So just go nice and slow. Slow and steady wins the race. And so after we put in a little bit of clay, you'll notice on this end, we're now shooting clay out. So I give it a few minutes and it will keep producing clay for me. And you'll notice that this stuff looks really workable. And the nice thing about this, okay, is it's consistent all the way through. So it's not really wedging the clay for me, but it is doing a part of the wedging for me, which is making the clay consistent. Now I tend to run all of my clay back through twice. So I'll usually scrape it up like this, and I take this little bit and I put it right there to go right back in here. But that's going to be it, guys, for today. That is how I take clay from your super dry state to into your bucket, from out of the bucket, out of the water bucket, to drying out to a workable state, to wedging it and getting it to a state where you can hand build or throw. I hope this was helpful. And if you guys have any questions, like, comment, subscribe, do all those things. If you're interested, I do a live stream where you guys can come and hang out with me and talk to me in real time. And I will have all the links to those places. Yeah, look to see you guys there. Talk to you soon.